guys, this is Animat, and welcome back to the Muppet Vlog. Now this time we're going to be looking into episode 7 of season 3 of the Muppet Show, which features the one and only Alice Cooper. Now, I just want to mention this right now, that there is a very good chance that you guys know a song that came out of Alice Cooper. Maybe you don't know who Alice Cooper is himself, but I am pretty certain that you know at least one song that came out of him. Like, if I tell you one, then, like, you might end up going, oh yeah, I know that one, yeah. But anyways, going into Alice Cooper himself, if you guys want to be more familiar with the guy, basically, he is known by many as the godfather of shock rock, where you would take elements of rock and roll and also elements of horror and mostly blending them together. Not just in the songs themselves, where the theme is a bit horror, like the subjects that they would discuss about, but also in terms of the concerts themselves, like the entire setting and what it looks like, and all the different elements that would go into it, whether it be like the guillotines or snakes or monsters and all that kind of stuff put into it, mostly to give something both for the rock fans and the horror fans. And not only that, but Alice Cooper is said to be one of the few people, or one of the many people actually, that actually formed what heavy metal is today, where they make it okay to have it talk about like these nightmarish themes, like, well, nightmares or monsters, or even the devil, Satan, and hell itself be the subject of many of the songs that would come from heavy metal, on top of like giving us amazing, like, great solos, whether it be in the guitar, the bass, or drums and all that kind of stuff, mostly making heavy metal as awesome as it is now. And with all that said, I think it's easy to say of how Alice Cooper definitely is a massive innovator in the music industry and a living legend in his own right. And on top of that, he is inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So overall, amazing musician, awesome guy, and a living legend. And, and on top of that, one more thing I would like to add about Alice Cooper is that he is still going on tour. He is still performing that awesome music, so whenever you get the chance, maybe you would still get the opportunity to check out a concert with Alice Cooper. But anyways, going into the episode in the Muppet Show that he appeared in, it's actually a lot of fun, and the best way to describe it is that, yeah, this is a Halloween episode. In some way, shape, or form, you could say that this is a little bit of a spiritual successor to the Vincent Price episode back in Season 1. Not necessarily in terms of the plot line, but in terms of the theme that they were going with. A little bit of that spoopiness to make it a bit more darker than your typical Muppet Show episode, especially like going with the theme of having monsters, skeletons, and ghosts flying everywhere, have that kind of theme into it. And mostly the plot that's going on backstage is actually pretty cool, because this actually uses Alice Cooper to his potential. And basically what he is that he's literally playing devil's advocate, where he would go to each Muppet and would give them a contract or try to make a deal with them, where in exchange of their soul they would get like unlimited fame and fortune, as much as their heart desires, as pretty much. So it was definitely a lot of fun to like mostly the episode getting into the theme of it and having Alice Cooper just be Alice Cooper, as we would see him as the rock legend as he is. Like, going into the theme of his music with what he's going with is actually a lot of fun, and you can definitely tell, like, it does help with the Halloween episode, plus the fact that, like, right at the get-go, before the intro starts, like, we see Alice Cooper surrounded by a whole bunch of monsters who are very prominent in this episode, and, like, he even said straight out, it's like, yeah, I know these aren't your monsters, they're mine. So like, it does add that element of, like, the strange, unnatural things are happening in the Muppet Show, especially by Muppet standards. Like, things are getting unsettling for them. And to start things off, like, in terms of the acts that Alice Cooper had to do, we actually see an interesting mix of what he would do. For starting off, his classical, like, mostly his classic template of what he does with his music. Like, it immediately starts things off with Welcome to My Nightmare, a great Alice Cooper classic. And what's interesting is that, and this is like throughout the entire show, is that they did not use the Electric Mayhem once. Instead, it's with Alice Cooper's monsters, where like they would fade, like they would fade into the band, and like they would start playing their music, which is actually pretty interesting. And again, it actually does fit well into the theme that instead of just using the standard Electric Mayhem, they would just use like the Halloween monsters. And what actually does help emphasize that it is more of a Halloween episode, there was another act that was called Once a Year Day, where we see all the monsters just singing backstage this whimsical little song called Once a Year Day, which is not necessarily meant for Halloween, but like with the theme that they were going, like, you know, like you can easily connect the dots. And on top of that, like, there are other songs that Alice Cooper does as well, going back into him. There was another one where he would sing with this weird, freaky-looking bird, like, freaky, multicolored-looking bird called You and Me, which is another Alice Cooper song, but it's, like, very, very tame. It's not as nightmarish. Like, this is more of your standard love song, actually. And then the finale, what Alice Cooper would sing, like, this is when he would bring in not only his monsters, but also the giant monsters at the same time. I mean, like, Thog, Sweetums, like the big green guy, and all the other big monsters singing "School's Out." You know, "School's out for summer." See, I told you that you guys would recognize one Alice Cooper song. But anyways, yeah, like, it definitely was a fun finale, and it does mix a little bit of like the school, like that period that school is over, and also the theme of Halloween. Like, it mixes those both elements at the same time, and it really does bring out a really fun number. Like, it really was a lot of fun, where Welcome to My Nightmare definitely was a lot more Halloween oriented. School's Out was more for, like, you know, the fun. Like, it does have a bit of that Halloween theme, but it's more like the School's Out theme. Like, even the big monsters themselves kind of dress up like in a school theme. Like, one of them is a cheerleader, one of them is a schoolboy, and all that kind of stuff. Like, they really emphasize more of that theme, and definitely a highlight, not just of this episode, but of the entire season. It was a lot of fun. And on top of that, there are some other acts that do appear as well. Like, some of them are pretty tame, some of them, like, they're pretty like, you could put them in any other episode, but some of them are pretty fun, and they're entertaining as it is also. There was one, Muppet Labs, where Dr. Bunsen Honeydew created a germ enlarger so that you don't have to experiment them through a microscope. That one was a lot of fun. And then there's also Pigs in Space, where suddenly, this is actually a pretty cool special effect, where suddenly they get, like, somehow they get shock therapy, and then suddenly they just become like they just become outlines of themselves. It's actually a pretty cool special effect. It's not easy to describe, but yeah, like, imagine if you see me and suddenly you only see the outlines of me, just like the outline of my nose, my mouth, the eyes, and all that kind of stuff. It's actually a pretty cool special effect, but it still resulted in a pretty funny episode. And another one that I want to mention, this is like a really short moment, but it's actually very interesting to note out in this episode, is that there is like one small instance, like less than a minute, where you actually see Fozzie in the cafeteria. And Fozzie was just there, like, he just wanted stuff to be normal and have less of a Halloween theme. And like of course the punchline is mostly like he's surrounded by monsters. But what's interesting is that you might remember this is actually where the GIF came from, where you would see Fozzie Bear, he would just be like, oh god, like, you know, that, like, I'm sure you guys must have stumbled upon it, but I've seen him getting passed around a few times recently on social media. But it's actually very interesting to note that this is where that GIF actually came from. So, just to give you a little bit of a context to know mostly where the Fozzie GIF would would be. And it's actually very, very interesting how there are little moments like that on the Muppet Show that still survives today just through little GIF expressions on social media. It's actually pretty cool. So overall, I would have to say that it definitely is a lot of fun. This is definitely a fun episode, but most importantly, the one thing to emphasize is that this is a Halloween episode. And I would highly recommend that it would pretty much be watched during that time of year. Like, if you are a fan of if you're a fan of stuff that adds in like those like little spooky elements, like the dark Halloween theme elements onto some family fun entertainment. Like, if you enjoy something like The Nightmare Before Christmas or the Vincent Price episode of The Muppet Show, then this is definitely worth watching. Or even, you know, if you're a fan of Alice Cooper and you're open to see like what else he has done, like, or even just to see how he would be in a family-friendly environment, this is definitely worth watching. It's definitely a fun episode. I would definitely say that this is, like, for obvious reasons, this is an episode that really does stand out, and I would definitely put it as a highlight. It's definitely worth watching. It's a lot of fun. So, if you're into the dark, if you're into the dark elements, if you're into those dark themes, and, add in some whimsy that the Muppets can offer, this is definitely one for you. So, anyways, that is pretty much it for this episode of the Muppet Vlog, so I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching, and now that this little Halloween season is over with that episode, let's see what else the Muppets can do to lighten things up. So, until next time, see you later, dudes!